Hey, what's up, guys? This is episode 10 with Elisa Escalente. She's an Air Force veteran turned into a vet service worker where she helps people get past their PTSD and gives people all these kinds of great insights on pushing forward and being the best they can be in a more mental state. And then we talk about some of the books that she's put out, along with how mindset and being okay up here can do a lot for your performance out there. Let's dig in, guys. Hope you enjoy.
Cool. So, Elisa, do you want to go ahead and give everyone an insight on who you are and what you do, and like kind
Okay,
of your life right now?
yeah. Um, I'm an Air Force veteran. I served for 10 years, six active duty and four reserves. And after the military, I used my GI Bill, and then I became a licensed clinical social worker. And I've worked for the VA, the DoD ever since with different projects. So I've been a therapist, and I've been a research assistant when project where we were Air Force suicides to look at the findings. And right now I'm a behavioral health consultant for primary care.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. So, do you really like what you're doing?
Yes, I've done it like since I was 18, so my whole
Yeah.
like adult life has been military and veteran mental health. Um, and as far as like physical fitness, I've done a lot of different things in that realm too. But my primary sport that I've done the longest is Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Okay, nice. So, yeah, what exactly do you specialize with the social work?
Mostly trauma. I do have an advanced certification in veteran services. So I did go back to school after I got my master's and I took more courses to get that advanced certification. So just, and because when I worked for the VA, I worked for a vet center specifically. And with vet centers, it specializes in combat trauma and military sexual trauma. So,
Mhm.
like by default, 90% of my caseload was PTSD at one point. So, yeah, when people ask for specialty, mostly it's veterans and PTSD.
Veterans and PTSD. How do you think trauma is linked to athletes and like the performance? Do you have you ever dug into that at all?
Yes, probably both professionally and personally. So,
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
and I like how you worded the question about that. I think it was this morning when you were suggesting we talk about it, because I have this theory. The question being, does being mentally ill attract people to the military, or does the military make people mentally ill? And the same questions get
Yeah.
asked with martial arts, like, does being mentally ill like attract people in martial arts, or does martial arts make them more mental? And I
Yeah.
think the answer is both and both, if that
Okay.
makes sense, like a cycle.
Okay. Elaborate for sure.
Well, okay, so like a key feature of like to have a PTSD diagnosis, for example, there's four different subcategories, and one of the main ones is avoidance and isolation. So with PTSD, what we're trying to isolate from is external triggers, right? That could mess with our fight or flight, but we're also trying to avoid intrusive memories that come up in our mind. So it makes sense that when you're in a sport like martial arts, for example, it's going to put all your focus on that sport, and it's going to make you kind of avoid and forget about the rest of your problems and your symptoms. And the same thing comes up in the military because we're trained and indoctrinated to be so mission focused that we also forget about our symptoms and our problems, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When you get focused on something that's like greater than yourself, or just the physical aspect of it, diving in there and having a goal and stuff like that when it comes to just and when it comes to competing and everything,
Mm-hmm.
or even just training in general, you know, being better than yesterday and just and going up the ranks and everything else. I guess it kind of like going up ranks and jiu-jitsu could be kind of the same way that you rank up in, or it could be relatively the same as the army and everything. And like I believe like a lot of the military kind of flock over there and they can kind of see that as a way. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, because like a lot of veterans do go into jujitsu or
Yeah.
MMA, notice, and I was one of them. It was actually the first thing that I got into after I got off of active duty was a Brazilian jiu-jitsu dojo. And really that was the only thing I had going for me while I was waiting for college. So I needed
Yeah.
something. And it felt pretty familiar with, like, they had like a creed, for example, and the
Yep.
discipline and camaraderie, and um, yeah, the fitness, it feels kind of mandated. So
Yep. Of course. Yeah.
there actually, so there's like working out in general is so important for our mental health, but it's because it's like targeting three different happy chemicals. So
Hmm.
the serotonin, which is the happy chemical, then the endorphins, which is our painkiller, and then the dopamine, which is the reward system chemical. So that comes into play if you're like making a goal and then seeing it through in fitness.
Yeah. Okay. So do you think, because when you're talking PTSD, do you think there's just some styles of PTSD where, say, like weightlifting would be better than combat sports kind of thing?
Well, from what I've heard so far, probably sexual trauma,
Uh,
because
yeah.
that's like an ongoing discussion in some like private jujitsu pages. I see it come up from time to time where someone has had like a sexual trauma and then they've noticed they're triggered in certain like positions in martial arts. Like if someone
Hmm.
is, suffocating them, for example, or mount or side control, and it kind of mirrors something that they went through during their trauma. So
Oh
that's
yeah.
always like hard for them to work through, but it's easier if they have good training partners.
Good trade. Yeah, absolutely. To kind of help realize what they're doing and don't go too far, know
Yeah.
when to back off. Have you dealt with much of that? Do you yourself, or do you
Per-
just deal with patients?
Personally, or you mean like professionally?
Let's go with both. Let's
Okay.
let's go personally first, and then professionally.
Well, so I am like VA disabled and I have PTSD and depression and hypersomnia. Um,
Okay.
I myself don't have like a real personal history with sexual trauma. Mine is more like childhood, like stuff that went on, as well as like some combat exposure when I deployed to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Um, and the other prevalent thing is secondary trauma because I'm a therapist. So, like, I hear like trauma stories
Hmm.
all the time. So, the symptoms have come up for me a lot. And then it's what I work with. So,
Yeah.
but that's why they say, though, in like the mental health world, we do have to like switch up our population sometimes because my trauma became more prevalent when I worked for the VA and I worked with a lot of combat vets. And it was also in Brooklyn, so the city life is a lot more triggering than like if you're in a small town, for example. Um, so I noticed that my PTSD was very prevalent when I was working for the VA in Brooklyn. And that's also when I was training the heaviest. So that was a really that was a difficult time.
Yeah. What do you mean? What do you mean you were training? What were you in jiu-jitsu at the time?
Yeah, I trained in an MMA gym and I trained but like more heavily in jiu-jitsu was what I competed in though. I did not compete. I was never brave enough to I was never brave enough to do an MMA competition or kickboxing or
Yeah.
boxing or Muay Thai, but I loved sparring and I loved training in it, but I was too scared of that. So I
That's
stuck with
understandable.
yeah, I stuck with like competing in jujitsu. At least I'm not getting punched, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
And I competed quite a bit back then, and but I've taken like years off now because I still don't know if I like doing it, if that makes sense.
Of the jiu-jitsu or um
Competition.
competition. Okay.
It's
Yeah.
miserable.
No, yeah. It can be making weight and stuff like that, especially for the big ticket events. That's for
Oh,
sure.
well, yeah, the weight. I'm glad you brought that up because that's one of the hardest parts for me was always the like cutting weight.
Yeah.
Um, but also the fact that you have to train like probably 4 to 5 times a week. You have
Yep.
to, I don't, not everyone gets anxiety with it, but I get like severe performance anxiety. So I'm like anxious like
Mm.
all day, every day up until the match. And then, you get that adrenaline dump and then you check in and then sometimes you're waiting hours and hours for the match to actually come up. And that's just killing your mind, and then the spectators and I just started to realize like, wow, I hate every aspect of doing this. Why do I keep doing it? I've probably competed like over 30 times. That's
Yeah.
I feel like that was a lot for someone that like that hates competing.
Yeah. Yeah. You pushed yourself out of that comfort zone though. That was pretty
Yeah.
dope. But
Did you do I think you said you trained too, right? A little bit?
yeah, yeah, I trained for about 4 years. Pretty heavily actually. And I was competing maybe every weekend. I honestly couldn't tell you how many tournaments or how many or like matches I'd have. It was so many because I was probably competing every weekend and almost every other weekend, you know, because
That's
I was actually helping run the events with Fuji BJJ, which they kind of travel all over the U.S. right now and kind of set up events and stuff like that. So
yeah.
it's pretty cool. I've been in the cage probably 3 times, but like my philosophy with it, like you can only get hit in the face so many times, and
Hmm.
then on top of the intense training that you gotta give the cage respect, and you gotta give it like your all. Like you can't go half-ass, you can't go quarter in. Like
Exactly.
so, if I can't put my 100% into it, I'm not gonna do it. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? And I know I so that's where I get with you. If you're like I'm at this point where I don't want to give my 100% into, or even able to because you've got a career and you got other dreams or anything else that you're wanting to pursue. You're at what belt level are you at now?
Purple.
Purple. So you've been at it for
About 9 years.
nine
Uh,
years.
but I've really slowed down since I've got my purple belt and
Mm.
yeah, I slowed down a lot and now I'm
Yeah.
trying to increase it. Just recently, I've tried to increase it, but I've dealt with a few things that have like interrupted that goal. I mean, I
Like,
injured
right? Wow.
myself and got surgery and then got sick. So just kind of
Ooh,
back to
yeah.
back.
That's yeah, of course. What did you get injured by? Or would you have to
Jiu-jitsu.
jiu-jitsu? Of course.
Yeah, this guy he had me in a toe hold and
Nice.
I had knee on belly while he had the toe hold, but it was like a really awkward position and when
Yeah.
I pulled my foot out, my knee just went in the wrong direction and popped. It was just
Ooh,
a
yeah, that's
freak
sometimes.
accident,
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
It
That's crazy.
happened.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about your time in the Air Force because
Okay.
that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Um, what made you jump in from the start? How old were you when you jumped in? 18, I'm assuming.
18. How did
That's
you know? It was 12 days after my high school graduation and I was in boot camp. Um, and basically, and I know you wanted to put kind of like a trauma perspective on it too, and talk about mental health.
hmm
Um, and like I
You
said,
yourself went through, adversity and stuff like that. So, I mean,
yeah,
your experience alone would help any anybody, I believe.
yeah, I know, like, so I'm really bad at citing sources, so I apologize, but there,
No
there like
worries.
are studies that look into what's the average demographic of people that enlist, and the only common theme that they find is usually like lower socioeconomic status, right? So
hmm
people that are lower middle class to poor, right, generally are more likely to enlist. Also, people that come from like troubled backgrounds are more likely to enlist. So sometimes we just kind of want to run away from where we're at, and then go
Yeah,
and have the stability and the adventure and whatever else. And but do we know what we're getting ourselves into? Absolutely not. Of course, we're young, a lot of us when we enlist, and but I was lucky enough to get into the job that I wanted, mental health tech, and So it was fascinating to me to help people in that regard. And then I had my deployment to Afghanistan in 2012, and that was on an Army FOB. I'm Air Force, was Air Force, but that was on an Army FOB. So I had that
Okay.
experience too, working with soldiers.
Interesting. How'd you like that? How was that?
It's fun and it's and funny too. I don't know. The Army and the Air Force, they are what you call like sister branches.
Hmm.
Um, because the Air Force like came from the Army, but they get jealous of us sometimes, and they let it be known, especially on a deployment, because they
Yeah.
deploy for longer periods of time, and they have combatants, right? Ground
Hmm.
force, infantry. Air Force does not have the infantry, so there's just, you've probably heard the saying chair force, go around, and they jokes.
Of
Plus, like
course.
when soldiers are coming to mental health, they feel weird about doing that. So sometimes, in order to feel more comfortable, they're kind of talking shit the moment they get in the waiting room. Like, oh, you're
Of
Air
course.
Force, you sit in air conditioning and blah blah blah. you know.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Well, I just broke the ice by saying you're right. I chose the right branch. That's
Yeah,
all. That's all I ever said, and it always shut them up.
there you go. Hell yeah. I mean, that's a little bit of a step up right there. Just kind of put,
Argue with it. So.
yeah, no, absolutely. Standing your ground. That's pretty
Mm.
dope. So is that pretty male dominant area?
Yeah, so like the field of mental health was pretty 50-50, but the deployment was absolutely male dominated. Um, and like the strange thing about it, if you're like a woman that's deployed, is um, like, so American military guys are going to be staring at you, right? So
Hmm.
some of these guys have not seen a woman in months, like literally, like some of the fobs, Fort Operating Base, that's a fob. Some of those fobs I went to give mental health, some of those guys, it was male only, some of those fobs, so they're staring. And then the Afghan men that work on the base are staring, but they're staring for a different reason. They're staring because we're, us women are showing our faces and our necks. So
Yeah.
that's very unusual to them. So they're kind of like caught off guard, and they're just gazing in your direction. So it's pretty like jarring at first, but
Hmm.
you get used to it after a while.
Yeah. How'd you get past all that? The the adversity and just kind of the stress of it.
Um, Probably like any military member. It's like we have like this amazing ability that I guess that we're all trained to do, where you take a problem, maybe say it's like this big, and then you
Mhm.
like compartmentalize it into something tiny, and you just throw it in the back of your head and pretend it doesn't exist. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that's healthy. And I'm not advocating for it, but it's kind of what we have to do to like focus on the mission. We just become very mission obsessed, and
Hmm.
we just do what we have to do. And then during dead time, during deployment, you work out, you set goals, you try to lose weight, you just, and it's just the same day over and over and over again. And then, just making sure you stay alive.
Yeah,
Is, um,
it's a big
but
part.
yeah, no, deployments are interesting. And then coming back home is like even more interesting. Um,
How so?
well, you're different.
Yeah.
Anyone that comes back home is different. It, because I worked in mental health, though, uh, I kind of knew what to admit and not to admit, and how to act, so that essentially I'm coming home and I'm thinking, okay, there's probably something off about me, but I can't. I work with a bunch of therapists, so I can't let them know that there's something off. So I did a really
Yeah.
good job of like pretending that everything was fine. And I even had a colleague tell me, out of everyone I've seen deploy and come back home, you're the only one that hasn't changed. And at the time, I thought that was a compliment, you know,
Yeah.
at the time.
But you're like, oh, I'm just really a good actor.
Yeah, Oscar
Thanks for
winner.
my thanks for commenting on my acting skills. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
It happens, you just gotta get past it because I'm sure the military is pretty big sticklers for all that.
Oh yeah, they stigmatize mental health in the military.
Mm,
Um, they also stigmatize like basic human needs, if I'm being honest, like just needing
really?
time off or rest or go on leave. Like they don't always like that either.
No, yeah, it doesn't sound like it. 'Cause, I mean, they have you guys for quite a long time, don't they?
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
bound by contract. But I was by the time I got out, I was very happy.
yeah, that's awesome. What'd you do when you got out? You just kind of started pursuing the social work?
Yeah, I at the time I was with um like an ex, but he was from New York, and me being from so many small towns, I decided that'll be my post-military venture. I'm going to move to New York City with my boyfriend, um,
Yeah,
and thought it would be like Sex in the City or How I Met Your Mother or Friends.
yeah,
You see these shows, Seinfeld. You see the shows and you think, oh, it's going to be a blast until you live there, and like it's a whole different story. But no, I applied to New York University and I got accepted, luckily. And um,
nice.
so I went there, and then college was like, honestly, college was like the easiest time of my life. I miss it a lot. Like, it's
Yeah, why is
so
that?
it's just nice. You go into a classroom with your coffee and your snack, and you just sit there, and they're nice to you, and all you have to do is a paper or like, and just talk and read, and it's just so nice. I
Yeah,
don't know. Maybe I sound crazy when I say it, or like a nerd or something, but I loved it.
no, learning, making yourself better, just in different ways. To each their own, right?
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
you go did you go to school? I don't think I've asked you about that.
Not any. I'm certified through a couple things, but no official schooling
Hmm.
yet. So, but working towards that eventually. Thinking about it.
What are you interested in?
Maybe a little bit of psychology and then just kinesiology, getting more into the body and learning that a little more. I've done my own self-research. I've read a lot of psychology books, and kind of to better learn the people that I was around, just because
Mhm.
they were acting a certain way and I just wanted to better understand them. So
Yeah.
I just kind of read a handful of books to kind of better understand them, or even words that they had mentioned. I kind of look into it, kind of thing. So, but I'm personally into psychology
Yeah.
because that has a huge thing to do with any kind of like the discipline, the motivation, and like getting past anything and pushing past trauma. Because I've gotten myself a handful of trauma that I've went through as a childhood. Um, but that's like for instance, my discipline. I have literally probably created my own discipline in my own adulthood because all through childhood it was neglected to get um, what's I guess taught at all from
Yeah,
um,
like not modeled.
yes, that's the word, not model at all. So I kind of created my own from there, and I mean I was raised by my mom for my whole life, so that's another thing. I've had to break apart from that as well. I've had to kind of grow up. I grew up at a young age because like my mom would work a lot of hours and then I would kind of just take care of myself and there would be times that I'd be cooking food for myself or whatever just so she could, pay for everything. My mom was
Mhm.
amazing. She was nice, never hit me, anything like that. She was a very caring mother. But, it's just she made simple human mistakes with, people and all that stuff. So it's
Yeah.
just, which people do. I don't blame her, at the time, to each their own. But um, that's just that stuff. A lot of stuff that I've pushed past just kind of helped me be more invested in it and stuff, more passionate about it is a big thing for me. Um,
Yeah, you sound pretty like self-taught.
yeah, yeah, very self-taught. And just and people that have just went to therapy themselves and
Hmm.
to um, and again, I've and a lot of podcasts like Jordan Peterson. He's one of my big ones. There's yeah, Jordan Peterson, and there's another guy. He's pretty big on it. I can't recall his name at the top of my head right now, but yeah.
Those are all really, but it's especially like with the mental health, like you said, it's so important in the realm of fitness, and you
It
being
is
a
being.
fitness trainer, yeah, that's huge because I'm sure
I
you
mean,
get people all the time that are unmotivated or exhausted or
yeah,
pissed off.
a lot. I mean, personal trainer is almost a glorified therapist. You know, in a way, that's what we are. Where a coach is more than just being your coach and telling you to do a certain fucking exercise. They are your therapist. They're your fucking family. It's because like your performance or your mental state and what you're dealing with in life, like that's gonna affect everything in the outcome. From the minute you get into that cage, onto the mats, to
Mhm.
training, to personal like Olympic training, whatever. Because if your mind's not there, you're gonna miss a lift, or you're gonna miss a cue, right? A lifting cue, and it's gonna fuck everything up. Like you're gonna slip, you're gonna make an injury. Um, so like being on point and making sure that your people are doing right or getting right by on the inside and outside,
Mhm.
like inside their mind and the body.
Yeah.
So that's one huge thing that I've main reason why I've dug into deep into that as well is why I kind of spread my niche out with it is because like if a coach could be like almost an all doer, right? He should be
Mhm.
able to the strength, the conditioning, the nutrition, and just and the the mental state to be able to try and figure out how people get past those mental
The stuck,
blockages.
the stuck points. Because I've
Yeah.
been saying to people lately that I believe the mind can force the body to do things, but I don't think the body can force the mind, if that
Nope.
makes when the
Yeah.
mind is like
Absolutely.
at that stuck point, it is
Hmm.
so hard to help people like get out of that.
Well,
Do you
I
find that like are people having a harder time keeping up with their workouts or their nutrition?
I would think it'd be it's more workouts because it's just like them making the excuses of not, it's just because you know how depression can get and almost even like ADHD paralysis.
Mhm.
Like there's and then to mix with the severe depression, it almost it's like your whole mind is like almost screaming at you and your body is just almost shut down, like there's been times where I mean I suffer from severe depression. It's all throughout my family, right? So one thing that's what happens to me. It is a thing. Like there are times where I have to literally scream at myself to get the hell up, get out, and just do the damn thing.
Mhm.
Just go through the motions. And once you get it, I think that's beautiful. I wanted to talk about that too. On okay, so some of your clients, patients, do you have routines that you give them, or do you ever push a routine onto them, or anything like that?
We create SMART goals. So, like
Okay. Yeah.
the sustainable, goals, simple,
Yeah.
measurable. Um, and of course, sustainable is the word that I'm always trying to like go back to, meaning this is something that you could sustain through your life, not a crash
Mhm.
diet or a crash workout plan,
Yep.
but something sustainable. So if they're going from no workouts to, and then they think they're going to go run every day, I'm going to say like, hey, let's dial that back and think about what can you realistically fit into your routine right now, but also it's not going to promote so much shame because you're going to make it too big and then you're not going to be able to live up to it just yet, right? Because they haven't worked their way up, and we can gradually increase it, but it definitely has to be realistic, sustainable. I, 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 with depression specifically, I'm a fan of microdosing and talking about pacing, doing things in spurts versus feeling like you have to do like this large 60 to 90-minute workout. Because nowadays I work out more in spurts, with
Mhm.
because of my depression. So, like another point with goals, you have to look at barriers, right? So what's the top barriers with depression? It's always the same two things you hear: fatigue, low motivation, right? Always fatigue, low motivation, fatigue, low motivation. So, what's the barriers to that? Well, even getting my shoes on and going into my car and driving to a gym for 10 minutes, I'm going to talk myself out of that. But me knowing me, I'm a TV binger with my depression. So where's my workout stuff? It's actually 10 feet from the couch so
There you
that
go.
I have no choice. There's no barriers. I don't even have to put my shoes on. I literally have a kettlebell, a steel mace, one of those maxi climbers near the TV, a medicine
Nice.
ball, and some light soft dumbbells. And so
Yeah.
now I work out like all the time when I'm watching TV, but in like microdose spurts, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. However your lifestyle, you can still get that shit in no matter what.
Hmm.
You know, and I love that because you get those setting those because you're quickly setting off those serotonins. As soon as you start feeling that depression coming along, and you're just like, nope, let's get an organic way to do that. So you don't try and prescribe
Yeah.
pills or anything like that, right? Or is
No,
that
I'm not a psychiatrist. Mm-mm.
okay? Yep. Cool. Cool. Yeah. So the organic way is just going to work out and kind of pushing it out through that way. That's awesome. I've been working on my home gym. I got a couple of resistant bands, and then I'm working on some kettlebells. So,
Yeah. No,
but
I like your workout routines. Like, so the reason I I don't remember exactly when I started following you. I think it was like a few months ago. Um, but it's kind of like you have this good mix of humor and like motivational talks, and it's exactly what I needed when I started following you because I'm going through like such a like another like life transition right now. So then I'm like, oh, let me follow motivational people that are going to help me like get off my ass and, just remind me every day, and you do your little morning videos every morning.
yep, every morning never fails. Just gotta get that morning motivation for everyone. It's also all my stories. So
Most of the time when I watch your morning story, I am at my desk with coffee and I'm barely awake. And I'm like just trying to like get that boost. But
mhm.
I also wanted to ask you, like, do you get nervous when you do that?
Not really, not anymore. Like in the morning, first thing in the morning, I'm just like, let's just get it. I guess more or less. Sometimes I have a brain fog, like because like I'm not always in that mood, right? So that's actually it's more or less my motivation too. That's my morning affirmation. And instead of doing it in the mirror, I just record myself and I post it for everyone else to see. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how I think. And like Gary Vaynerchuk, he kind of presents it, or I guess not Gary Vaynerchuk. I guess it was like a somebody he had podcasted. It's uh it's like when you start thinking about it, as long as you're who are you doing it for? Who are you going to make this video for? And if like
Mhm.
if you got that one like, you got that one person that it's you're not doing it for yourself, and you're not doing it for the dude that's commenting negative things, or the dude that's like you're not doing it for that dude. You're doing it for the people that smile, that laugh, or even your mom. Like, is if it helps that person, then that's what you're doing it for. And like you are you're really gonna um you're really gonna what's that? I'm looking for a word. Words are hard. You're really going to prevent, or you're really going to take away from someone's ability to get better just by seeing your video. Just because you're afraid of someone else seeing it or thinking some type of way, kind of thing.
So that's a good,
Inspirationally
yeah,
speaking, of course.
that's a good point because me, I don't have a TikTok, right?
Hmm.
And a part of it is this whole concept of pointing a camera at yourself and talking into it, and I still cannot do that. Like, so to me it's amazing when I see people that can, like, they're brave enough to record themselves and post it, while meanwhile I get like severe anxiety. I'll look at the video and I'll think about posting it and I'll think, no, I sound stupid, or I look stupid, or I don't like it. And
I
the,
started out with that, yeah. Like I used to feel that way all the time, and
oh
like
my,
my ADHD I have borderline personality disorder too. So that kind of loops in together with it stuff. It's kind of crazy because if
mhm.
you think about it, like the borderline personality disorder mixed with the ADHD is like the borderline, you start thinking about the things that you say, right, as they're coming out. You're like, oh man, is this person gonna, what is this person thinking, this, that, and the other? And then the ADHD, it just kind of kicks that into overdrive. So then you start stuttering, and it just makes you twice as socially awkward. That's that is one thing I have definitely dealt with my whole life, and that's like I've read a tremendous amount of books on like trying to uh, talk to people. You know, like one of my favorites is 92 Ways to Talk to People. And it just kind of gives you all the tricks and trades. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And like that's another reason with the podcast, which I tell everyone is like this is a way to get out of my comfort zone, you know, by forcing away and trying to talk to people because I don't want to be I never wanted to be that the quiet emo kid in the corner, you know, because
Me.
yeah, that was who I was in high school, honestly. You know, I'd have the hair and stuff like that. I'm like, I don't want to be that person, you know.
I
So
was like emo kid, but without the black because I wasn't allowed to wear all black, you know.
yeah,
My
oh, wow.
stepmom wouldn't let me, but I was just I had the essence of emo, like just
Essence
the
of emo.
mood and
It's
the
in
depressed
your
essence.
soul was black. Yeah,
Oh, it was so bad. It was just like I especially I'm thinking like back to junior high, high school, just all the questions in my head of what's the point of life? Why are we here? What's the point? We're gonna die anyway. Like today's not a good day unless something amazing happens. Like it was just really bad.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, glad you got that was just a phase, right?
I hope so. But it's just it changed in the military though because you're not allowed to look sad, you know. So you,
Yeah,
essentially you just look all like professional and stoic, and then you go home and you cry at night. I don't know. It's like some of us maybe. I don't know
yeah,
what the men do. Like it it still amazes me like thinking about men and how they like mask and hide so many emotions. Like I'm like where did they cry? Like how did they cry? They have to be doing it at some point, but I don't know.
yeah. Hmm. I don't know. It's a good question. We gotta be doing something, right?
Yeah. Or the gym. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Again, when I tell people, hey, maybe you should try therapy, a, a lot of guys will end up telling me, that's what the gym is for. I'm like, okay. I
It
mean,
is. We
keep
talk to our
going to the
mates,
gym, of course, but
right? Which there's nothing wrong with seeing a therapist. Nothing wrong at all.
yeah, no.
Yeah. So,
If
I
you
mean,
find,
I get a personal trainer. They'll be your therapist. They should. If they're a good personal trainer, they'll be your therapist.
yeah, um, no, it is. It's a hard profession, and the big thing that I'm learning more lately is I have to really keep my mind right to do it the right way, if that makes sense. Like what I do outside of my job is so crucial to make sure that I'm okay enough to do my job, right?
So what kind of methods do you use to help push you forward?
Well, I think I talked to you. I do smoke weed medicinally, you
Hmm.
know. That's been a huge help. I
That's
originally and I went to a medicinal marijuana doctor,
yeah.
got a prescription initially. Now I'm in
Oh,
California.
you're just a pothead. You got a dealer down the road. No, you don't have to sugarcoat it.
Medicinal. Yes. I'm trying to
Crack that
sound
J, get you
professional, but
this
that's
stuff.
true too. um yes, I 100% agree with you. That is true. You can technically it can be medicinal and fun at the same time, right? It's
Yeah,
Disney
absolutely.
recreational. But
It's
the
like
amazing thing
fun.
about this doctor, he taught me a lot. Like he figured out my symptoms with the PTSD and depression and just my natural base is, depression, right? I have a lot of depression. And he, of course, he told me the exact type of like I mean, not just sativa, but he told me like the exact type of THC versus CBD component I probably needed to keep like elevated during the day, but also focused. Which a lot
Yeah,
of people worry about that with marijuana. It's like, oh, I don't want to lose my focus, but if you talk to someone that knows what they're talking about, and if you know your mental health as well as the strain for it, it can really work wonders for you. So yes, I use that. I use, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is a big coping tool. I also love comedy. I need comedy. I can't do stressful horror movies because I already get too many nightmares. Uh,
Yeah, of course.
Walks. I'm a writer. That's
Yes, yeah, we were gonna touch base on that too. Oh, you have a book out, don't you?
yeah. I have a couple of books. One came out a few years ago, and I just recently took it out of distribution, but it had its course, and
Yeah.
you know, still proud of it. And then my second book I self-published, so that one's just gonna stay out. Um, so the first one's for like veterans, military, mental health, and the
Hmm.
second book is my collection of um, quotes and poems, mental health
Okay.
poems. But and yeah, I've been writing actually since I was 6 years old, and before anything else, I really think that was my original coping outlet was writing.
Yeah, and you still do that today then?
Oh yeah, all the time. I'm like, you'll probably notice it after a while. You'll see me posting like
Yeah.
quotes stuff on my story all the time.
Are those quotes from your book or?
Some of them. Hmm.
Yeah, that's
Some
pretty
of them
awesome.
are, and some of them are new. Some of them are old. It's, I don't know. You could tell me if your mind works this way too, but if, do you feel like you have too many thoughts constantly
I
happening?
mean, there can be sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what it
especially
is.
with the ADHD. Yeah, I
Yeah.
used to write myself a lot.
Huh?
I used to write music.
Oh, really?
Hmm. I
Songs?
used, yeah, I used to have a little garage band going on too after a while. We got probably like books on books when I was in high school and junior high, but I haven't written much. I guess I have written a handful of poetic and stoic kind of messages here and there, but I did do a lot of music writing in school. I was the lead vocals and like backup guitar, so
You
it's pretty
sang?
cool. Uh-huh. Yeah,
Really?
yeah, for real. Yeah, not
Oh,
anymore. Not anymore. That's not my thing. But yeah, I sung for a little bit.
wow.
Yeah, I've went the full emo thing. Well, it wasn't like a depression. It was more like
Like
I guess
emo
band
scary?
style. S- Uh, it's more like Chevelle or Trapped or Tool kind of mixture. You know, still had some meaning behind the words and like rocker kind of vibe. But
Okay.
yeah, I guess the different there was like different kind of styles of emo back then, right? So
Yeah. I'm trying to picture it right now.
yeah, you. I don't know if you're gonna be able to, because like I said, it's like I had the hair. I even had a red highlight in my hair. It was crazy. I've been trying to find the picture because I know my mom's probably got a high school picture, but it's legit. I have the red highlight, black hair. It's crazy.
What year did you graduate high school?
Well, technically, I didn't graduate high school. I dropped out, of course. Um, but there's a story behind that, you know. Which I've actually thought about doing a podcast and kind of like describing
Okay.
the story myself eventually, maybe. That's one openness that I've been trying to do. I'm trying to push open the door fully on that one because I believe that like everyone, I mean, a lot of people would say that the things that I've went through, I think it would help other people not
Mhm.
only resonate with my material that I put out there, but to better understand why I do what I do, you know.
Right.
Um, but
No, that's why I write. And like outside of the books and like my writer page on Instagram and Facebook, I have a blog that I've been writing in for 3 years,
that's
and
awesome.
it's called Functionally Mental blog.
Okay.
And I love the name because I think about how there's so many of us, like we've been talking about it this whole past hour. There's so many of us that work normal jobs and live like quote unquote normal lives, but we're mentally ill like all through it, right? Just
Yeah.
trying to like manage like our mental illnesses, but live like these quote unquote normal lives. So I like to talk about that in my blog a lot because I think like people deserve to have like quality mental health education, and so I just put it out there. And usually when people try to ask me for mental health advice, I ask them to first look at my blog and look through the titles and see if anything resonates first and try to read some of it before they ask me, because I've already written like probably hundreds of
Yeah,
blog posts of like free mental health advice. It's like take advantage of it, you know?
yeah, that's awesome. Hell yeah. Well, you're gonna have to send me all these links because I'll definitely shoot them in the description below or below. Yeah, but below, of course. That's pretty awesome though. I didn't realize you had a blog either. Because and that's like to give this one thing I keep saying is like you really can do it yourself. Like you have the tools. You shouldn't. There's no excuse. Like there's so many resources out there to be able to push past and to figure things out.
Mm-hmm.
Like it is astronomical on the resources, and you don't. And a lot of them is free. Like the people
Yeah,
don't realize that. Like that's why I try and push out the content that I push out. It's like the same thing. It's free fitness advice, free nutrition advice. You just learn to fucking eat clean, or you do this little routine, work out for an hour a day, or 30 to an hour a day. You're fucking you're golden. You know, or even if you don't even have that time, there's like these 20-minute hit workouts you can do and stuff like that. But like the mental state, that's tremendous. But you get it. A lot of people don't want to read. That's one big
they don't
problem.
want to
People
read, they
start.
don't want to write, they don't want to watch a video that's longer than 15 seconds now because
Have you thought about taking your blog to a like an audio and video level, like maybe YouTube blog?
you mean like vlogging, like a video?
Vlogging, yeah, yeah. Duh,
Well,
yeah, my bad. Forgot they
no.
had a word for that now. I'm like, oh shit, it's
um,
2024. They should have a word for that. Of course they did.
well, it goes back to that anxiety thing. It's something I'm still trying to push past because really I love to write, but I am not a salesperson. Like I not
Same.
like the
Yeah.
best selling myself. I get really weird about it, and then I think about the whole posting of video because this is fine because this is like a conversation we're having, so I'm less nervous. But if I was just talking into this camera right now just by myself and thinking about posting it, I'm gonna fuck that up so bad.
She just then that's what Gary Vaynerchuk said. Is just do it. Just post the damn thing. Just post it. That's all you got to do. Authenticity is what sells.
Yeah, you have the turtle thing. And do you have a favorite Ninja Turtle?
I would probably have to say it's between Leo and Mikey.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Michelangelo was always mine.
Mhm.
Um,
And Mikey's one of my favorite because like he became uh the last Ronin,
yeah,
which he's like the last if you're familiar with Ninja Turtles, it's
no, I'm
like
not.
the last Ronin is like the adult version of the Ninja Turtles.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
the three of the brothers pass away, and Michelangelo's the last one alive, and he's like vengeful to his brothers. It's pretty
that's
crazy.
cool.
I'm kind of a nerd when it when it comes to them, a little nerd.
Well,
There
I
are
hope
people that are
so.
so much worse than me. Yeah.
No, because it's in your whole like how you sell yourself, and you were right, like what you said with the DM thing. I definitely am the same way. I don't want to be clickbaity. I don't want to like just keep
Yeah.
throwing like my book at people, like buy my book, or like those those
Hey,
posts
buy her book.
you
Buy
see.
her book. Right there. Buy her fucking book.
Thank
I'm
you.
just saying. Absolutely. I
Um,
got
but yeah, you know those posts that you see where I don't know, like a coach, for example, or they post those long, lengthy things about their journey, and they got those emojis and the little sparkles and the hearts and the
you.
horoscopes. That
Believe it or not, a lot of AI does that for him.
oh, okay, I'm like, no, I don't want. I don't. It
Like
doesn't.
honestly, yeah, all those a lot of AI has done that for me. Made the original. Like I kind of give them the direction of the post, and then they'll
Yeah.
put some emojis and stuff for me a lot of times. A lot of times, but yeah.
No, but I know you're a real person. You can tell by how you post that you're like an actual person. Does that make sense? Like,
No, no. Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, you can doctor it up. I mean, the AI is really it's getting crazily smart.
yeah.
That's
And
for
the
sure.
important thing, too, to me, and like on the topic, I suppose, when we're selling ourselves, whether it's like fitness or like our accomplishments. I want to know like the hardships too. I don't just want the story of the accomplishment and all the great things and the rainbows and the butterflies. I want to know like
Yeah,
how did you
exactly.
suffer? How did
How
you
the
get
fuck?
to the suffering?
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly. That's why that's one thing that I like to do with my podcast. Is like I like to dig into the difficulties and the problems that you guys face and how the fuck you guys got past them. Because I think that's what resonates with people and that's what kind of helps people, understand your adventure. They, oh man, I could do that too. I want to follow her and see what she's been doing, you know,
Mhm.
and then be like, I'm gonna do the same thing. So that's why we post what we're doing and how our lives are, and that's what keeps people kind of going and being like, oh man, okay, I can do this. She's doing this kind of thing. I mean, like you said with me, like you these morning my morning ritual with the video, you're like, yeah, this guy's doing this, so I'm right. I'm gonna be in a good better mood today because he's gonna be in a good mood today.
Mhm.
Stuff like that. And that's a beautiful thing. Is like you really do choose your mood. You choose how the fuck you're gonna take about that day, no matter what. Like it could start even small things. It could be raining outside before you go to work, which has happened to me tremendous times. I've had to be at a 9 to 5 job, and it'd be pouring down rain, and I have to walk or ride my bike there. But I'm still gonna do it, and I'm still gonna get there, and it's gonna be a great day.
Or the day
That's
that you had your frozen mustache.
that's yeah. When it's
Oh,
yeah, when it's like sub-zero outside. Yeah, so even days like that. Like I hate the cold. The cold is like I I don't need my personal perception. I don't need to do cold bath. I go through enough adversity and bullshit to push past. My mental state's fine. But though it is good for the muscles and stuff. And again, so I'm just not a fan of the cold. So I
yeah.
like my heat. I think, and I turn it. I get what do they call it? Like the woman's temperature in the shower.
Oh, the steaming hot till your skin
Yeah,
melts off. Like,
yeah,
yeah, I'm.
almost. Yeah,
But the difference is I live in the desert. That's so I hate
that's
cold. I
true.
can't go back to the desert. I don't know. Like, but it seems like you're in Illinois, right?
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
it's yeah, yeah. Indeed, it is not the greatest state. I tell you what, but it's even harder with like people just taking accountability and stuff. Like being a personal trainer, I feel is like even harder because there's just less people to be just more less people to take to put in account taking accountability and like
hmm.
putting in work.
At this point in your journey with personal training, and I'm asking because I've had to get to this point too as a therapist, do you have that unconditional acceptance that people are going to do probably what they want to do regardless of what you say? Sometimes
Yeah,
they might go with it, they
but
right.
yeah. So I mean, they pay a lot of them with the payment and stuff is why I like
Hmm.
my online programs. Sometimes that helps with it, and the constant. I mean, yeah, people are gonna do what they're gonna do. There's really nothing you can't say anything. But that's the beauty of it.
Hmm.
In your hands, you can choose who you're gonna work with and who you're not.
Hmm.
I do my own psychological study on someone as if they're gonna take it serious or not,
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna make a sales pitch to someone that I know is not gonna take it serious because I'm not gonna waste my time. And like some of the people that I've interviewed too, like Clay Mayfield, and with his academy, is like it's his academy is not made for everyone, and that
Yeah.
like not every academy is made that way because
Yeah.
he's got a certain criteria as he wants to make champions, and that's
Mm.
with me. I want to work with serious individuals that are wanting to make themselves better and that
Mhm.
are wanting to prove like lead by example. I in a retrospect kind of want to create leaders and champions, create that mindset to make everyone just want to be better every day. So
And I
that's
like working outpatient mental health because it's voluntary.
oh, okay. That's awesome. That is really great.
Yeah, I don't want to work in a setting where people are kind of forced or mandated. I'm more
Yeah,
like, no, come to my office because you willingly want to be here and you are ready to like actually go on a mental health journey.
nice. Yeah, see, you do pick and choose because I mean, like I said, there are those people that just they have to fucking help themselves. They have to reach rock bottom before you do, and you're not gonna be that rock bottom for them, you know, or
Yeah.
help them towards that. So you definitely gotta do your own little assessment, mental assessment on people, kind of
Mhm.
see how they are. I mean that's probably been another issue is like I don't accept just anybody, you know. But I like to help everybody. You know, that's what the free content's for. I like to help with everybody so they can do it on their own and I don't have to like, oh, okay, you're not gonna do this because I genuinely care. I'm gonna be on your ass with it and be like,
Mhm.
hey, or however you get motivated, however you're gonna make motivated. Like if that's so, I'll ask that too. I'm like, so what motivates you most? Like, is it gonna be
Yeah.
yelling at you? Is it gonna be taunting you? Is it gonna be, hey, you're doing a great job? You know, is it appraisal? What is it? You know, that's kind
That's
of
a
a
good point because I wonder sometimes with the military, like if you screamed at me, would I go into like that military mode and just listen to you, or would I get more traumatized? Like I'm
yeah.
not like
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing because like you gotta be worry about PTSDs and stuff like that. Like you just literally to each their own, you know, on every aspect. So you
I
just
I'd want the words of affirmation. Yeah, the compliments probably.
yeah
Uh, but I'm thinking about jujitsu too, like how I like it when my coaches tell me I'm doing a good job. They rarely do that, by the way, but when they do, it's like it feels so good, right?
yeah absolutely. That's see so that then yours would be definitely appraisal and just motivational,
Yeah.
inspirational. You know, leading having someone lead by example. You know.
Hmm.
And that's another beautiful. That's I think that's another reason why I do that is because if everyone sees me like that's more of that's a pure discipline thing. Like I don't have to get up that early. I really don't. You know, there's no reason. I could probably cram in the time to make my content and to do make go to the gym for 2 hours. I mean, I'm in the gym for a little bit longer than that, just because the gym's my happy place and I have the time to be in there. So I kind of spend like a couple hours, a handful of hours.
You know,
But
you're making me realize though that that is a pressure that you have as a personal trainer that I don't have as a therapist because my clients don't aren't supposed to know much about my life, right?
mhm,
I'm not supposed to disclose much at all. So for all they know, I'm not doing any of the healthy things that I recommend. Like for all they know, I'm just a complete delinquent like in my private life and
that's
then I
it.
give them all this like health advice and mental health advice, but then I don't have to lead by example necessarily while you do, like personal trainers, right? Like, um, you guys have to lead by example. And I'm here thinking, like, there's been times in my life I was a mess. Like, I was giving amazing advice, but I wasn't taking it. And other times where I've been a lot, like, more healthy. I don't know where I'm at right now. I think I'm somewhere in between, but I think I'm gaining momentum. So,
There you go.
and I'm
That's
on my fourth therapist. So, just to be clear. The best one though that I've had. So
that's awesome. That's good.
mm,
Having a good therapist because like I was actually listening to a podcast with Jordan Peterson about talking about toxic therapists and
mhm,
bad therapy, and it's out there. It's out
mhm.
there. People,
I've worked with some of them.
yeah. See, yeah. There you go. Yeah, they was talking about the parenting and how a lot of the therapists nowadays are definitely going in the opposite direction on how they're raising their kids, and even on the parents' side, like the parents are just going blindly and going leading or letting these fucking therapists lead the way. They're not even trying to learn their kids their way. You know, parents need to start be taking fucking control. You know, that's yeah, that's
Yeah,
kind of
that's a good point. I work with kids now too, by the way.
cool.
Like because in primary care it's they say for a consultant it's any age, any problem, right? And that's kind of scary. That was really intimidating for me.
Oh,
Like, oh my God, any age, any problem. What am I going to do? This is a lot. But the cool thing is, I learned so much more because of it in the past 2 years
yeah,
and getting more used to also working with kids and teens. And sometimes the parents want to be an active participant and sometimes they don't. But when they're sitting in the sessions, because they want to be there, I'm going to make sure they're doing the work like with the child, and I include them in it and I
that's
encourage them
good.
to like model, certain things to the child, and also, taking turns with like reflective listening and
Yeah.
feedback. That could be a it could be a really cool experience, actually.
Yeah. That would be. Hell yeah. Well, Lisa, it has been over an hour. It's getting close to my bedtime.
Hmm.
So, let's give some more any shout outs. Go ahead and give the names of your books and where people can find you.
Okay, so elisaescalante.com is my website. So that's the simplest way. And from there, you can find my blog, both of my books, and like the links to Amazon and Barnes, and just some info about my background. And I believe that's it for now.
How about your Instagram? You want
Yeah,
to?
Elisa Esca is my normal Instagram, and then Elisa Quotes is my writer page on Instagram, and then I have this silly little funny page called Questions, Thoughts, Answers, and that one's more of just like funny, but I
Okay,
post questions and then people can answer the questions, and it can be entertaining. So.
that's cool. Hell yeah, that's pretty neat. All right, Lisa, I really appreciate you having on here. It's a really good conversation because it's really opened my eyes on a couple different things and just digging into the trauma and psychological stuff like that. So maybe we can have another podcast in the future.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you so much. And I look forward to more of your morning, like get after it posts.
Cool. Hell
So I
yeah.
appreciate them, and I appreciate like the chatting and everything.
Yeah. Good. Hell yeah. Well, reach out to me anytime. Anytime you need that motivation. I got you.
All
Or if
right.
you have any fitness questions or anything like that, don't hesitate.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
Have a
thanks again. What was that?
have a good night.
Yeah. You too. Thanks again. See ya.